Hello, all you tea time and terrapins. Welcome back to Turtle Tea Time. It's me, Mel, and with me is Katherine.
Hello, it's me.
And we got a special episode for you, because every episode's special this year. Because we got the third movie in this franchise. And it is an important one, it seems. Just from my research and from, well, you know, we'll get into it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's always fun to watch these without context and then wonder what the research will tell me.
Yeah. Before we do that, unlike last time, it has actually been a few weeks since we recorded. So what have you been up to?
That's all. Okay, let's see. Trying to think of like pod relevant themed things. I'm not quite done with
We can
Kamen
just say
Rider
whatever.
Kuga, but I'm okay. I'm not quite done with Kamen Rider Kuga, but I'm pretty damn close. I'm on episode like 43 or some shit, so I'm in the last stretch.
Okay, that's the home stretch. Home stretch.
That is the home stretch. Do you want me to talk about it now, or should we just wait till next month, where I will definitely be done, and then we can just have like a little Kamen Rider Kuga discussion at the start here?
You can maybe give like just like a line or two. Just like, what's the temperature? Just
Sure,
temperature
sure.
check. We don't gotta get into depths.
Yeah. Temperature check is good. I think the show's had a good run. I stand by what I said before. I do think it's a bit of like an old-fashioned, straightforward show compared to some of the ones they made after. But I don't think that's a bad thing, and I do think they do some cool stuff, you know, regardless. Or like even with that in mind, I guess. Good. Show's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be curious how you feel about Agito in comparison. Because, you know, Kuka's obviously, like, well-liked, but, like, I don't know, like... You know, it's obviously not, it's not like, you know, universal everyone's favorite or anything like that, because that'd be crazy.
No, I don't think there is a universal everybody's favorite Kamen Rider. I think they're all too different.
I guess that's true for everyone. That's true for everyone. Yeah. Some people like Ghost. That couldn't be me though. But yeah, we'll save the full discussion for next time.
For next time.
I'll have to do my best to remember because it's been like I watched Kuga before COVID, so it's been.
Oh wow! It's been like half a decade.
That's a different writer actually.
Yeah.
But I don't like to think about it. I don't like to think about the amount of time it's been.
You don't like to.
Oh my goodness.
Understandable.
Oh no. It's crazy that COVID lockdown was half a decade ago. That's dumb. No, time should stop.
I agree. I think it's awful.
Beyond that, though, what have you been up to?
Great question.
You don't have to, like...
I'm still just kind of like moving, settling in.
Yeah.
I've been watching Ave Mujica.
Yeah. As if I.
Yeah, I think that, you know, a lot of people have. I have been rewatching Build with a Friend. It's kind of funny how, like, the thing that really stands out to me about Build now, which it didn't back then, because I didn't have any other frame of reference, because it was my first one, was that, like, it has this, as my friend describes, like, TikTok zoomer editing energy in, like, the way it's, like, shot and framed and stuff. But, also, you know, it also goes really real and really hard. It's
I
probably the most. Uh,
I
I think it's probably like the most political Kamen Rider I've seen.
I guess it kind of depends on like what you count as political, but it's definitely like the more like overt one because like well Japan got divided and there's a war. But I don't know if I could like I guess I don't know like to what degree I would say other Kamen Riders are also political. Um,
Oh yeah, because I mean like everything is, but like in the sense
yeah.
of like I once saw a Japanese blog post about Build that kind of talked about how like Kamen Rider internally is viewed as a very like apolitical hero, but then
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Kamen Rider Build has the people, you know, that Sento is fighting for a lot of the series be like explicitly state actors who are, you
Yeah,
know, Sento fights the military industrial complex.
yeah, that's true. And like, there's an arc about a war, and like, uh, Banjo is also like a convict, escaped convict.
Yeah,
Uh, so
yeah,
there's definitely
you
stuff
can
there.
you
Even
can
even, even though the sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, you can definitely view Pandora's box as like a metaphor for like the appeal of state violence, or and like I don't really think that's a stretch or anything.
Yeah. Um, it was funny. This well, first of all, I'm curious how the political messaging holds up when you get to the second half of the show when uh Evil starts taking over the plot. Because I feel like that's when like it becomes a lot more like shonen headed. Um, from my macro
That's
recollection, I
true.
only watched I only watched the build when it like aired, so it's been like again pre-COVID. uh, but on the other note, like a last month, I watched Total Recall, and I was like, "Damn, the cinematic parallels between this and Build accidentally or intentionally, I don't know." It was really funny though because there's a lot of similarities between them in the plot,
Yeah, I wouldn't really
including
say
both
the
of them involving
political.
Mars.
I wouldn't really say the political elements like go away when Evil takes like center stage. I think it's just more that like it's more that they get second grounded, but they're still like there.
Yeah, that's true. I do think one of the goofiest moments in Build is like halfway through when a Volt is still like disguised as Bloodstock. Uh, it's I think in the middle. I think it's still like in the mid-20s. There's just like still a fight
Yeah.
going on between like the different guys, and then Bloodstock just comes on screen and just says, "I'm gonna tell everyone their hazard levels," and then he fucks off. I'm like, this is goofy. Why'd you do that?
I don't know, but he's great. I love him. I think he's one of the best Kamen
He
Rider
is
villains. You know.
he's delightful. I always think about like around like when the reveal happens and you have like that fight in the rain and it's really solemn. But then as
Yeah.
time goes on, you realize Evolt is actually just a big shithead and a troll, and then you get the other great moment of him where like at the end of the series, they reach the top of the thing after a certain thing happens to a major character, and then like Evolt just goes like, "Yo." And then Sento just goes, "Evolt!" And the episode ends, and it's good. Uh,
It's so good. It's so good. I love
uh,
Build. I think it's a great series.
it's definitely I think like of like the last stretch of Heisei Riders, definitely I think I highlight. Um,
Right. I know a lot of people like X8. I'm curious about,
yeah,
watching that at some point.
it's X8. I remember enjoying at the time, but I also don't. I feel like I don't care about as much over time as time pass. I don't know if that's just a case of like memory failing, or if it's just like sometimes the show that exists in your head is different than the one they actually watched, kind of thing. Um,
Right.
It's also a weird case because X-Aid was written by Yuya Takahashi, who has written like 2 other shows since. He wrote 01 and also Geats, both of which I watched.
And if I recall correctly, you're not a fan of either of those.
They're okay. They got some sauce, but I feel like the end result is like, it's fine.
Right.
Though I probably just speaking from the show that exists in my head that I haven't seen since they aired, I'd probably say I have like I guess a bit more affection for X-Aid than 01 or Geats. X-Aid has some guys I really like Dan Kuroto, the big troll guy, who is a bit flanderized later in the franchise, but also there's like Kiria, who's like his rider form is a bike, which is fun.
That is pretty fun.
There's a good line early on in X-Aid where like it's the 2-episode arc that introduces him, and Kiria says to Emu, the protagonist, "There's no point if you don't ride me," and I'm like, okay, calm down.
Yes, my only imagining of this is like Saji and Setsuna from Gundam Double O. This is the image I have in my head.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely check out X-Aid if you're interested in it. It's a weird show because it's like it's obviously constrained by both like being a Kamen Rider Monster of the Week show, but also specifically being one in like the late 10s where it's like the formula is that much more rigid in a way. But attempting to do like a medical drama themed around video games is wild, and I kind of respect that.
It's such a nuts combination. What were they thinking?
Yeah, like the protagonist Emu is like he's like a gamer, but he's like in episode 1 like childhood flashback playing the Wonder Swan because Bandai. He's he's like an ace gamer who like also trains to be a doctor because he wants to help people, but also like every other rider, at least in like the initial set, is like a doctor who is like seems to have like zero interest in video games, and it's just like they're there because they're doctors, and it's a fun dynamic. Yeah, Kamen Riders are so fucking weird. I gotta catch up on Gav. I still haven't caught up on Gav. I finished like Boom Boom Chirp, but like that was like true last time because Go Juicer started, which has still been good. It's just I've seen 3 episodes, but like it's got the formula of like there's like rival Legacy Reds who are like not the same characters, and also there seems to be like a contest every time of like, oh, be the number one in this contest coming up. It's got some wild energy.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. I gotta buckle down once my school is stopped killing me to like finish the Sentai season I started like. By the time my semester ends, it'll be approaching 2 years ago, which upsets me. But Bokenger, because I was like in 2023, I was going on this big like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go through all of Sentai. Well, not all of Sentai, but I'm gonna go through a bunch of Sentai, and I kind of just like.
Okay, I was like, that's a lot.
Yeah, I'm
that's
like,
a lot of
Sentai. I know it would take a while, but I was getting some good momentum. I have some group watches on the side because I'm apparently in like 3 different group watches on different Sentai seasons, which is a bit crazy.
That is a little crazy. Does that Sentai season have a Power Rangers equivalent?
Okay, so I'll break it down for you. So the last one I finished was in July of 2023. This is on my own. The last one I finished on my own was July of 2023. Jetman. No, which does not have a Power Ranger season, but the one I started after that was Bokenger, which is the one I'm stuck on. And that one,
and does that one
became
have
Operation Overdrive.
Oh.
But besides that, with one friend I watched Mega Ranger with, and that's In Space. And we actually watched Mega Ranger and In Space side by side.
In
And
Space
then
is one of the better Ranger seasons, so I guess you didn't pick a bad one to do that with.
yeah, but Mega Ranger beat In Space's ass real bad. I was not that impressed
I
with In
believe
Space. But Mega Ranger ended up being one of my favorite Sentai seasons after that. And then after that, we're currently doing... Well, one, we're watching Godzoozer together, because we also watched Kaiju together. But we also moved on to Go-Go 5, which we attempt to do the same thing with In Space by watching its Power Rangers equivalent, which is Lightspeed Rescue. But the last time we watched it, we got like to episode 6, and we're like, we think this show sucks. We're just gonna not do this and just gonna focus on Go-Go 5.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, Lightspeed Rescue, I feel like would be an interesting one to watch, like in parallel, because it's they added a Power Rangers exclusive Ranger in that one.
Yeah, theoretically that's interesting to me, but just like the show was not working because none of the characters had sauce, except for like maybe one guy who's the Green Ranger, who was like the only one with a personality. And his personality was being crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a Ranger fucking classic. There's a reason I've never tried to rewatch those in adulthood. Like,
yeah, there was like a debate, but not kind of debate, but there's discourse popping off where it's like people were watching like the Super Mega Force Rangers at the Super Bowl clip, where it's because there's Go Kaiju suits doing like playing football, and they were talking about like how for whatever reason Power Rangers body language and suit acting is like homogenized between all the characters. Like every character is a Power Rangers in suit acting, whereas in Sentai, like there's a deliberateness to the way that each character is like a different person. Like for instance, like I still haven't watched Go Kaiju, but like if you look at a picture of Go Kaiju, you'd be like, oh yeah, that guy in the suit knows how to fucking do Captain Marvelous because he's doing the thing, kind of thing. Whereas like every Power Rangers guy is just like, I am doing the Power Rangers thing.
Right.
Yeah, but the sauce with Go-Go 5s, they're all like siblings, and their estranged, disappeared dad comes into their life again, and he sucks. And it's a fun wrinkle that like Lightspeed Rescue doesn't have, because the Lightspeed Rescue is just like, we assembled the team, and all of them are uninteresting as people.
Yes, they did take a little bit of this, because forgive my recollection of a show I haven't seen in 500 years, but if I recall right, the OC Ranger and the pink one were siblings, and their dad is like a like kind of like bad tortured dad type of guy.
Yeah, I remember one of the last episodes we watched was one where like the dad gives the Pink Ranger a mission, and yeah, like she is his daughter, and that's like I guess the way of like keeping that connection there. But in Go-Go 5, it's more like there's the whole Ranger team is like the family drama with the dad, and it contrasts with the villain team who are also like the evil demon family, and they have foils, kind of thing. But I'm also still early on. Also, weird thing about Go-Go 5. Do you know Asuka from Evangelion?
Yes.
Her voice actress is just a character in the show. Which is really weird, because you just there's a woman on screen, and then you hear Asuka's voice come out of her mouth, and I'm like, this is the weirdest thing in the world. Like, she's just a regular character. She's a good character, but it is weird hearing her voice, because I'm like, hey, I've heard you in Evangelion and Berserk, and now you're here in my Sentai, and I see a face attached to you. And just to round it out, because I was still listing my Sentai seasons that I was in the middle of.
Oh, yes.
There's a friend who I watched the 80s season Bioman with, and we moved on to the immediate next season after that, which is Changeman, which is, again, 80s season. So no Power Rangers equivalent. And with a different friend who have had a lot of trouble actually arranging time to watch because they, in recent months, went to start teaching in Japan, which makes the time zone situation insane.
Oh, no.
She used to be, like, in the UK, which made it a lot easier, but now she's in Japan, which makes it harder. We were watching her favorite Sentai season, Appa Ranger, which is Dino Thunder in Power Rangers terms.
Oh, yes. Dino Thunder was the first one I watched when I was a child, and I liked it so much that I wanted to watch all the others.
Dino Thunder seems like it has some sauce. Like, I don't necessarily care for the way Power Rangers does, like, shared universe stuff, I guess. Or, like, I don't know. I'm speaking from an outsider, but, like, the vibes I get from Power Rangers is just not the best. But I do think having Tommy show
Just
up as,
a
like,
moment,
a
I'll be
guy,
right back.
Where was I?
Okay. We were talking about the Sentai that is equivalent to Lightspeed Rescue and Lightspeed Rescue. No, then we went to
I think
the Dino Thunder Sentai.
The Dino Thunder. Yeah.
That's...
I think I was saying that, like, I don't fuck with necessarily with, like, Power Rangers and its, like, continuity, but I do think, like, having Tommy as, like, a mentor ranger is inspired and cool. Like, I can understand, like, cool kids being like, oh shit, that's cool.
Yes, and that stuff definitely makes you want to check out, like, old seasons and all.
I do think, like, the weird, I think it's predominantly maybe a Western proclivity of just, like, having to force, like, the same cast. Is that just a Western thing? I don't know. It was a thing in, like, earlier Power Rangers, but it does feel like this is a thing you should not have done, where they, like, we have to keep the Zyuranger suits for as long as possible, but we shoehorn in only the 6th Ranger from Die Ranger. And then eventually you just make an excuse to have the same characters become, like, the other Sentai seasons. And I'm like, I think there's a reason why they had to eventually just, like, call it quits with, like, Lost Galaxy and Lightspeed Rescue to, like, make it go into the actual Sentai formula.
Right.
Though I guess also, like, at some point Ultraman started just having a continuity between seasons. So I guess there's ways to do it. But I guess Ultraman's kind of weird because, like, in, like, at least the 70s that we shows you've been watching, is, like, the shows that, like, the show that starts immediately after the next one is the one that takes place after, but for whatever reason the military team is new. They replace the old one with the new one. It's like, well, I don't know why this happened in the universe.
It's like video game. Your character starts at level 1 in the sequel. Ass logic.
Yeah, except it's like, with, like, the UN, I guess. They're like, the team from last time has been disbanded, and now we have a new one. Why? Question mark?
They couldn't get the gang back together. It happens.
Yeah. It feels like one of those things where it's like, well, it's coming from a toy first perspective, where it's like, well, we want a new team with a new aesthetic to be the identity of the show, to sell new toys, but from like a continuity framework. This show takes place like a couple weeks after the last one. Why does this happen?
Right.
One of life's great mysteries. But yeah, I need to finish up all that Sentai stuff. I want to like branch out with other toku too. There's like a lot of stuff that's outside of the big three that's like worth checking out. And of course, I'm podcasting for Ultraman, so I have no reason to go watch another Ultraman season on my own again, because I'm gonna get to eventually. But there's like other weird ones out there, like Toho had like a trilogy of shows in the mid-aughts. And Atomic had a duology of rescue theme Sentai, not Sentai, but rescue theme toku also in the aughts.
Fair enough.
And then you have, I'm just rambling at this point. I'm just saying shit. I just like toku, which I guess explains why podcasts about it so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I don't want to just ramble about nothing too much.
No, that's fine. Shall we get? Shall we move on to the main event? All right.
First of all, production. So first of all, if it wasn't clear from the title, this movie is Gamera versus Gyaos. Or as known in Japan, Giant Monster Dogfight, Gamera versus Gyaos. So this movie was planned immediately after the release of the last one. However, two important decisions were made that set it apart from its predecessor. First, versus Baragon's unpredictable performance meant Dai president Masaichi Nagata assigned Doriaki Yuasa to once again take up the role of director based on his success directing the first film. Because you remember from last time, he was devoted to only being special effects director. He was devoted to special effects director because they gave the bigger budget movie to the more prestige director.
Right.
However, he would also be special effects director for this movie, so he's doing double duty. I guess full creative control. It was also decided from the start that this movie would be more targeted to children, which is, again, big departure from last movie, which was, if you remember, a lot more serious in its subject matter. Or at the very least in its presentation of subject matter, because there's there's stuff in this movie, but I'll get to that. This new movie took some inspiration from some of Toho's recent kaiju outings that come out since Gamera's inception. So you have in 1965, Frankenstein Conquers the World, aka Frankenstein vs. Baragon, who is, not to be confused with our Baragon.
Oh, are there two Baragons?
No, so going to be the most confusing than ever. For Toho has a kaiju called Baragon, so with an A, and Gamera has Barugon with a U. But otherwise, they're spelled identically. It's really annoying, and they came out like a year apart. I don't know what they were doing. I guess it's just following like the kaiju naming template. But then again, the year after that, 1966, so same year as the last movie, we get War of the Gargantuas, aka Frankenstein's Monsters, Santa versus Gyra, which is a pseudo sequel to the above. I think it's like not same continuity, but like weirdness. Actually, you have to see both those movies at some point. And there's also the fact that they were also working on Toho was also working on a King Kong movie called King Kong Escapes, and they had previously also done King Kong vs Godzilla, so they're they still have the rights, I guess. And so based on that, Yuasa was like, well, we gotta do our own classic monster, so why don't we? He pitched to scriptwriter Nissan Takahashi, who of course was he's been with us the whole time. He was like, hey, can we do a Dracula themed kaiju? And so the first draft for this movie was called Gamera versus Vampire, and with like the kaiju being called Vampira. Though eventually the name Gyaos was settled upon by Nagata deciding the name. It's notable that Gyaos, in many ways, seems designed as like a polar opposite of Gamera in terms of their strengths, because one of them is a tank and the other is, I guess, glass cannon high DPS.
Right.
Yuasa has also claimed that with not just with Gyaos, but also with future Gamera adversaries, he was inspired by the TV show Mission Impossible, for giving all the kaiju like weird weapons and powers. And I'm like, well, that's that's a wild inspiration, but I kind of respect it. Regarding the new direction being more kid-friendly, the original kernel of this was, again, going back to the first movie when... do you remember what his name is? Whatever, the kid in that movie. With the lighthouse scene where, like, he falls and Gamera catches him.
Yeah.
And, that was like, sort of like, the kind of original kernel of, like, oh, this is gonna be, giving something to the kids, and then it was well received by the kids. Who we're already kind of like a big fan of kaiju and kaiju movies. And it's sort of like with this movie that we watched today, that they established Gamera as a bona fide friend of the children, which is sort of like kind of central to his identity going forward. There's also, of course, in this movie, positive reception to our kid hero Eiichi riding on Gamera's back, and so they sort of affirm the direction for the future. Bear in mind that human drama scenes often left kids bored, so you also sought to hook people in with the action art, the jump, which is why we get the eruption scene right at the start. That plot point with the eruptions was actually inspired by contemporary events, where you had eruptions in Indonesia, the Philippines, and Kamchatka in Russia at around this time.
Oh.
And so there's concerns of a Ring of Fire event happening and potential of Mount Fuji erupting, which of course happens in the movie. Yuasa has also been on record saying that he hates the inclusion of those scenes with the military and the scientists, especially like when they got all technobabbly and try and like exposition about the kaiju, but felt kind of forced to include them just because of genre conventions, because it's kind of like every kaiju movie since the original Godzilla's kind of had those guys in it. Like we've been over this, like,
this one I think felt a little less operations pilled, for lack of a better phrase.
Like, I wonder if some of it's just like it's phoned in, like they didn't want to put in. This is a reason why, like, the professor character in this movie,
that much of it, like screen time wise.
Yeah, like that's also why, like, the professor in this movie, Dr. Aoki, is like not as big of an on-screen presence compared to the previous movies. In large part, Yuasa's view is like, You got the scientist guys and military guys techno-babbling about like the science behind the kaiju, and he's like, this is very logical, but kaiju are very illogical, and so it doesn't actually make sense to have them. In his view, he's like, come on. They're like really they're weirdos. Tying into that, and along with this, in sort of like in concert with the new child or interaction, you also felt like you didn't want the Gamera and the Kaiju, and it's like the world of Gamera, I guess, generally, to be like defined by the rules and theories of adults. And so there's also
I can see the like logic there.
Yeah, he kind of like, I guess he kind of wants to go from like maybe or a storybook or fantastical vibe. And so I've kind of like tying into that as well. You have the important note of like, you know, Ichi being the one to notice a particular fact about the kaiju, which we'll get to later. As sort of like, oh, there's sometimes just like, there's things kids will notice that adults will overlook. And being that kind of like important to like Yuasa's vision of, you know, this being for the kids. And also just like he wanted to try and convey as the emotional core of the movie that there was a bond between Eiichi and Gamera. And so that was like scenes were included in the movie to try to highlight that. Maybe paradoxically, depending on how you look at things, is also kind of a noted fact that like with the Toho stuff and like Super Raya stuff in general, the blood depictions is kind of taboo. And so Yuasa was like, hey, we should lean into this. We should set ourselves apart by like showing that. And so that's why, you know, you have a bit of that in like the last movie with like a lot of blood on Baragon as well. But this one they kind of like really in like, oh yeah, these kaiju are making each other bleed. It's making a big mess. And of course the kids are all about, yeah, fuck them up. Even so, the movie was not free of human drama. And this time as well, the human drama was also ripped from the headlines, much like the Mount Fuji eruption. For this movie, President Nagata stepped down from the role of producer and passed the torch on to his son, Hidemasa Nagata. Hidemasa wanted to include social issues in the movie because he felt like it'd be more compelling. And so in this movie, you have like the protest against the construction of a road by some villagers, and this was inspired by extremely contemporary going on at the time, the farming community in Sanarizuka clashing with the Japanese government over the construction of the new Tokyo International Airport, which is currently known as the Narita International Airport, on their land. And the airport and its design had been announced in 1966, and kind of comes in the context of the Tokyo 64 Olympics, and sort of like just how that fits in the broader kind of modernization push in Japan at the time. And the farmers, like, who were being threatened with eviction because, like, you know, airport was being built on the land, began with protests running into politicians, but then quickly escalated to roadblocks and clashes with the police. Nagata also wanted the struggle with the villagers and the construction company to be intertwined with Gyaos. In his view, he's like, you know, wanted to tie this stuff into like the Gyaos awakening to show like kids, oh, bad things have consequences, or like bad actions have consequences. We can talk about that later because I think this movie has some interesting moral positions on this stuff.
All right, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about that.
Also, going to budget stuff, because Baragon underperformed, this film had a smaller budget than the previous one. This movie was
I
also
think
funded
you can tell.
Yeah. Like this is like that last one was like a big blockbuster. This one's kind of like it's paring it down a bit. This movie was also funded alongside Wrath of Daimajin, which is the third Daimajin movie, based on loans from the governmental organization, the Japanese Film Expert Promotion Association, which was an association that appears to be established partly due to Nagata's influence, because I guess, you know, he's always doing this. Go check out episode 0. There's just like, you know, this is his thing. With mission and statement of basically shoring up the declining film industry, because at that time, you know, film was being threatened by TV. And the strategy to do this was to export Japanese films to global markets. This new direction for the AIDA export also leads to inclusion of more Japanese landmarks in these movies going forward. In this movie, I think one example is there's the theme park is based on one from real life, but also there's like a hotel used as a base of operations in the movie that was modeled after the then newly constructed but not yet opened Hotel New Otani, which did lead to the owner complaining to Ngata, the hotel's not even opened and Gamera already blew it up, what the fuck? In the context of sort of like the landmarks inclusion in the franchise going forward, you also have, apparently the Imperial family joked by saying, well, I hope hope Gamera doesn't blow up the Imperial Palace too.
Can
get the
you
rest,
imagine?
It would be funny. I don't actually know the Japanese population's like relationship to the monarchy in their head. It feels like one of those things where like it doesn't. The fact Japan is still a monarchy doesn't come up enough in like modern media, so you just don't think about it. And then you remember, oh yeah,
right,
you got an emperor. Like you're not watching Av Musica going, this is a society with a monarchy. In terms of special effects, Extract Productions was once again commissioned for the kaiju mechanical and electronic work, as well as for miniature stuff. Because there was lower budget, there were questions about, like, for instance, how many shots of Gyaos' ultrasonic beam can we include? Because
quite a bit.
For each,
like,
yeah, they had to actually consider like how much to include in the movie, like per scene, because each case of compositing cost at the time 3,500 yen per cut of film. Which today translates into 14,938 yen, or $100 US and 80 cents, 144 Canadian dollars and 76 cents, or 77 British pounds 74 pence. Today's money exchange rate. Right. Special effects are expensive. Gyaos was designed by art director Akira Inoue, with staff from Extract such as Masao Yagi and Eiji Shirakuma creating two versions of the suit, one with spread wings and one with folded wings. Kizumurase was responsible for painting the body, while the head was directed by Toru Suzuki. The Gamera suit was recycled from the previous movie. That one again was built by Masao Yagi, but the eyes were modified to be friendlier and cuter. Because you remember, this time Gamera is a friend to the children. Though that said, they did bring out the
I did notice that.
Yeah, he's a friend now. Meanwhile, the original Gamera suit from the first movie was brought out sometimes for the fire breathing scenes. Seems like Teru Aragaki seems to have reprised the role of Gamera as far as suit actors go, but I couldn't find who was a suit actor for Gyaos, unfortunately. They apparently made life-size props of Gyaos' claws, and also for Gamera's shell, for like the HE riding on it scene. But the Gyaos' claws were also operated by like 3 people pulling cable. Obviously, because of the Dogfight tagline, there's also a lot of emphasis on trying to make the aero battle in this movie spectacular. Also of note, this movie introduces the song of Gamera, which is used in the ending and also in trailers. Is less famous than the song introduced in the next movie, Gamera March, because that one seems to be like the main recurring Gamera theme. However, I do like Song of Gamera more, which is why I used it as the intro theme of this podcast. So if you're wondering, hey, what's that song at the start of this podcast? Well, now you know. It's the idea of this movie.
Now I know.
The song was composed by Akira Komachi, with lyrics by Hidemasa Nagata, again, that's a producer, and it was performed by the Hibari Junior Chorus, which seems in line, I guess, with, like, you know, Ultraman OPs were also doing this. Incidentally, the clip show and the ED when the song's playing of previous movies was partly to pad out the movies to meet the length of requirements of foreign distributors, which is kind of funny.
That is funny.
The movie was released on March 15th, 1967, which that's a few days from now. We had originally, at time of recording, we were originally planning to record on that day, but we found this Thursday a better day to record than the Saturday. But I do have our previous podcast dropping on that day, which means if you're listening to this, you probably already listened to that by now.
Yeah.
The movie was released as a double bill with the Japanese-Soviet co-production Little Fugitive. I don't actually know what the plot of that movie is, though. The movie appeared to be a critical success. Godzilla series director and known war criminal Ishiro Honda also seems to have blown away by the movie. And even sent Takahashi a New Year's card praising it. So, I guess they're like, oh damn, the Godzilla guy liked our movie. That's cool.
Yeah, I would be over the moon about that in their position.
And with that, we have our third Gamera movie, but also what is perhaps, based on what's been said, the first movie of the rest of the Gamera series. So we'll see about how the new direction goes in the future ones. And just on the side, some notes of contemporaries in this year. In 1967, we have, well, at the time this movie's release, Ultraman is still going and will end in a month, and then half a year afterwards we get Ultra 7 being broadcast. Toei would also get in on the action as they put out their live action TV adaptation of Giant Robo. And also Toho would put out in the same year the aforementioned King Kong Escapes as well as Son of Godzilla. And yeah, that's the production stuff.
Great.
Now, it's time for my poem summary. Would you like to hear
it? Yeah, it's time for the... Yeah, let's go.
Here's the poem for Gamera versus Gyaos. Building a highway, but will the villagers pay? Boy and turtle bond. The winged terror can't be stopped. Burn down the forest, I guess. That's an awkward silence.
Oh, sorry. I thought there was supposed to be one more line. For some reason, I thought these were 5 lines.
That was 5
like,
lines.
When she can... Oh, I must have thought... Wait, okay. There's the one about the highway. There's the one about Gamera and child bonding.
Yeah, there's the one... There's highway, the villagers paying... bonding.
Villagers pay is a separate line. Okay, yes. I was sitting around waiting for you to say that last line.
I mean, I guess it is confusing because I do start the second line, but it does flow together.
Yes, so I'm gonna critique.
Okay, so for next time, let's not start a line with a preposition.
Yes. That being said, I think maybe because in terms of events, not that much happens in this movie. You did a pretty good job. I think you basically hit literally every plot point.
Yeah, basically, I think so. But yeah, let's walk through this seminal foundational movie for Gamera, which starts with like
I'm guessing
we get
this
the dialogue
is kind
and
of
immediately...
like the formula for things going forward.
Yeah. So we start with like the Dai logo, and then immediately fuck, volcanoes exploding everywhere. So, getting right into it, volcanoes exploding, and then Gamera shows up. To I guess calm it down, maybe? But also in the scene we get like the introduction of like Eiichi and his sister Sumiko. And we just it's I guess there's not much to say about the scene because like, oh yeah, Gamera comes and there's an eruption and then it stops erupting. But I guess it's for the kids it's like, oh cool, Gamera, he's there in 5 minutes into the movie. Unlike I mean, I guess Gamera also showed. I guess I guess Gamera did show up like early on in the last one. He just also disappears for like an hour after that. But yeah, we get like Gamera shows up and it disappears, and then we immediately have like a team who's like, oh man, we're gonna go find Gamera, which does not go well. But it takes a bit for it to like be apparent because we also get like introduced to the main human drama plot, which is we got this our protagonist, Shiro Tsutsumi, who happens to be played by the exact same guy as the protagonist of last time. The actor's name is Kojiro Hongo. He's back playing this construction foreman who's like tasked with like building an expressway through this village, and they at first it seems like the villagers don't want to be evicted and are protesting it, but we later find out that actually they're like, well, we're protesting so we get better value for our land, basically. But yeah,
sorry, you cut out for me for half a sec. Could you just repeat the last like 2 sentences you said?
Yeah, so you heard the part about like the actor, right? Just to clear.
No.
Oh, okay.
I think that's where you cut.
Yeah, so we get introduced to, I guess I could say like a deuteragonist, if I assume Eiichi is our protagonist.
Right.
Or I guess co-protagonist. We get Shiro Tsutsumi, who is played by Kojiro Hongo, aka the guy who played the protagonist of the last movie. So
that's wild. That's fun.
Oh, you didn't recognize him?
No, I didn't. I think because his fit is so different.
Yeah, he is like a he's just on his construction gear the whole movie. But yeah, he's working for a company that's building an expressway, or planning to build an expressway through this village. And the main like human drama seems to be the villagers are protesting it, or at least like at the start it seems like they don't want to be evicted, but then we find out later they actually just are protesting so that they're given a better deal when selling their land, which I guess we'll get to later. But yeah,
there's a weird moral there, but
yeah, we'll get to that when the characters discuss said moral. But for now, we get like on one hand we have the villagers like sabotaging the workplace, and like some beta like we want. I think at the very least we're seeing ignoring the future motivations that get revealed. We're kind of seeing like a conflict between like do we want to leave our land and how much do we want to get compensated and how much will we be enriched by sort of like this deal being made, and the construction of the infrastructure, but also
yes,
alongside that we get
this felt this is like definitely me boss babying, but this felt very like Higurashi to me, like the tensions of like the rural.
Yeah, well, see, this is a thing where you and I have something in common that my other co-hosts don't, is that we both are Higurashi, which means we have that as a frame of reference, because
yes,
in episode 12 maybe of Ultra Q, there's one episode of Ultra Q where we first meet the Kaiju Garamon, lands in a meteor, and there's a better episode of Garamon after. But in the first episode of Garamon, they go to this village where a meteor fell, and they're like going on a lake where a dam is built, and look underwater and go, "Oh, hey, there was a village here before." And it's just kind of commented on in a very neutral way, because I guess that was the times, because that's just what Japan was doing at the time, as part of like modernization efforts. And so obviously that reminded me of Higurashi, because there's was whole plot of the Higurashi and Hinamizawa about, but the dam building project, and
yes, I got similar vibes from this.
It's a thing I'm kind of like interested in like studying in the future more in depth, because it's like sort of like sort of like the drive of quote unquote modernization that's like at the expense of like the rural populations. And like I feel like I've heard the term like internal colonialism applied to, and I wonder like how applicable the term is for like the Japanese metropole doing it to its rural population as part of like the broader also as part of the broader project of like nation building, because how much the idea of like one Japan is constructed as a national identity, I guess like both in, I guess it's complicated because there's obviously the emperor and the shogunate for a long time, but there's also obviously there's also regionalism, but just because like there's also the case of North America where like dams have been built in ways that benefit the settler population but also are destructive to the environment and also to native populations, and so there's a similar dynamic there. It's just like you have the distinction made between like the indigenous versus the settler population, whereas in Japan it's like the urban versus rural, and that's like a different dynamic, right? Even though I guess again,
yeah,
the whole title, you have the Ainu.
I think the railway plot in this movie is definitely playing in a sort of like similar genre space, thematic space, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, except I would, as we'll get to later, I would say that Higurashi takes the rural perspective, and this movie takes the urban perspective.
Absolutely.
But we'll get to that later, because it isn't until like the end of the movie where we get like the quote unquote moral being made. But yeah, we have like you have roadblocks and like the camp being trashed. And so the workers are sort of like, damn, this sucks, but like we'll clean up, we gotta get our job done, even if the people don't want it. We're still gotta, the workman spirit of the worker, of like the construction workers. And meanwhile, the helicopter spent to look for Gamera gets cut in half by a laser and everyone dies. And one of many shots of vehicles being cut in half in this movie, and it's really cool. But the important thing is, at this point, we get our child protagonist, Eichi, confronting a reporter who's like looking around, I guess, for Gamera stuff. And they go into some weird cave because the construction workers note, hey, there's a weird cave with a weird glow over there. And they go inside, and then there's a tremor, and the reporter is a dickbag who leaves Eichi in the cave that's collapsing.
I was so like, whoa, by that moment,
He's like, hey, dude, you can just grab the child and leave. But no, and then he immediately gets.
It's like maybe the darkest thing in this movie.
Yeah, and then he immediately gets his comeuppance because he's just like outside, and then it's like, oh, and he gets lifted in the air and eaten by our nemesis in this movie, Gyaos. We get the shot of just like, I guess him green screened as like he's getting hoisted up, and then you like get the camera shot turning of like the camera showing a reveal of Gauss's face and going into his mouth, and it's cool. It's like, get fucked, loser. Definitely getting like immediately the sort of like I guess like a binary right and wrong comeuppance, moralism they probably expect from a kids oriented movie.
Right.
And from there, Ichi gets pinned by the rocks as Gyaos emerges, and then Gyaos tries to pick him up, but then Gamera comes back because he's a friend, and we get our first battle of the movie. I guess like in like the first 20-ish minutes, I'd say.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, we get the reveal that like Ichi is like the village leader's grandson, just like Sumiko is his granddaughter. But also, I guess he's the Mion of this movie. But also, Gamera gets like pretty injured, pretty bad from like Gyaos' laser beam thing. And yeah, how'd you think about this first fight? And also Gyaos generally, because this is his first showing. First impressions.
I honestly, I think Gyaos is kind of lame.
Okay.
Okay, hear me out here. His whole thing is that he shoots beams. But also, they cut the budget for this movie, so those beams look like shit.
Okay, I just want to say, that's just how they did beams back then. Like if you look at like Ultraman on TV, this is also how they did beams. Remember, this is the 60s.
Interesting. I was like, oh, this clearly does not have as much fun. Okay, the thing I don't like about Gyaos is that I don't feel like, first of all, he doesn't really have like a backstory or anything. He's just a thing that exists.
Yeah, I think the most exposition we get is like, he's an ancient thing and he woke up.
Yeah, but
so I guess it's not, you could argue that's like gives a mystery, but
yeah. Yeah, the thing I don't like about Gyaos is that he can only really do one thing, which is shoot his beam.
He can fly.
So he's like a zoner character. Okay, yes, he can fly, but he flies and he shoots his beam, and he has no backstory. These are the two things that annoy me about Gyaos.
Okay. This is funny. I won't explain why it's funny, but it is funny. I do think he's a bit scrawny. And his face does look a bit cheap. I like him, but I also feel like
maybe I'm just spoiled because Gamera and Baragon are so good that it's like, oh, you have Gyaos, and Gyaos is like fine, but he's fine.
Yeah, I mean, Gamera is a cool guy. We'll get to the tier list later. I forgot to fucking make the tier thing again. It's fine. I'll do it. I remember for next time. We'll have to verbally do the tier thing. That's fine. But I've been busy. Apologies. My life's been hectic.
No, it happens. It happens.
But yeah, I definitely feel like if they had maybe more money, the suit could be a bit more impressive. But also, I do think they're able to make it at least do cool stuff with the suit in this movie. And I think like in a vacuum, I thought before watching this movie, because I've seen Gyaos before, and I thought he's a little goofy. But I feel like I like him a bit more after watching this movie. But after we get this fight. And then Gamera is able to, first he retreats to the shell to protect himself, but he also puts Ichi on his back and flies away. This is where we're clearly getting, in very explicit terms, that Gamera is a hero now, and not just an animal. It's not like a case of the first movie where there was, I guess you could say a bit of serendipity or plausible deniability, because you have the one moment of catching a kid, but most of the movie he's just being a Godzilla. And this one is
yeah, and then the
intent
movie,
is clear.
He's kind of like a neutral type of guy.
Yeah, he's just he's just there. He shows up. He's Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah.
But in this movie, they're clearly drawing a line. Okay, Gamera has motivations and interests, and they are in line with like the child protagonists, and that's like a very like I guess like Gamera has like a personality that's being cemented here, and I think that's interesting, especially compared to what came before. In fact, we get like even more of that, where we have like Gamera landing in the amusement park next to the Ferris wheel. Like he can't verbally communicate, but like you see sort of like the intentionality of like placing him here, and then like the adults like ride up on Shiro specifically, which is interesting because he's like we have like the construction guys framed in opposition to villagers, but Shiro's still like despite being the leader is sent to like he's the one who the first because he's protecting this man. He goes to help him, and you even have the moment of like he can't reach H.E. right away, so Gamera actually like shuffles a little bit closer, so we get like a bit more like
right.
Like
Gamera is an oomph in this movie.
Yes. They're really going out of their way to like even the little details just like make it like compare it like he's not just an animal, he's like a guy who like thinks and has feelings about things, and I think it's cool.
I agree.
It's definitely like a big change compared to the last movie specifically, but like it's a good one, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, a more sustainable one if you're thinking about, like, oh, we want to make lots of Gamera movies.
Yeah, because like, there's only so much you can do with, like, the guy who keeps showing up is, like, just an animal, I think. Like, I think there's a reason why, like...
Yeah.
Well, for one, like, Godzilla trended in this direction, where Godzilla eventually became, like, a guy with a personality, and so, like... When they made a movie I haven't seen, but when they made the 99 American Godzilla movie and he was just like an animal, there was a lot of like they felt like, oh, that's not the soul of Godzilla in it. And like even like the original Godzilla movie, like Godzilla's a force but not really an animal.
Right.
And like what was I thinking of? Oh yeah, in the recent MonsterVerse movies, they like increasingly make King Kong like a protagonist and not just like a big gorilla. And so it does seem like the more you like try and make it like a franchise with the same guy in continuity, the more you want to like humanize like the kaiju, I think.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty sensible, I think, at the end of the day.
Yeah. After this, we get... First of all, the news is all over, like, Gamera showing up and saving a kid. Including H being interviewed by the news, but also we get our first, like, exposition scene. H.'s like, call him Gyaos. And he's like, why? Well, who cares? It's Gyaos now. And everyone's like, yeah, sure. I guess so.
I was like, I love that it's a genre convention of these things that they just bring children to military meetings. It sparks joy in my heart.
Like, I was thinking this movie, like, there's the convention. Okay, so like a couple weeks ago, Brad and I watched the movie Dagora, which is 64 Toho Kaiju movie released between Mothra vs. Godzilla and Ghidorah the King of Monsters. So between two Godzilla movies that all three of them were released in the same year. I don't know what the fuck they're doing over there. That's crazy. But Dagora, funny enough, is kind of it's goofier in tone, but it's kind of similar to Gamera vs. Baragon because it's mostly a heist movie that features a kaiju.
That's a fun genre combo.
Yeah, I think you should watch it. I think it's obviously I recommend a bunch of Toho movies, but I think you should watch Dagora because it's fun. But like the plot of the movie is mostly about like there's this weird diamond situation going on, and it's like diamond gangsters in a ball, and like it's related to the kaiju because the kaiju is like it consumes carbon, but also like it's more in the background, and like because the protagonists of the movie are more focused on the diamond stuff, they're going out doing the diamond stuff while the kaiju stuff's happening in the background, and you have like the military and science guys taking care of it. But like you have the thing where the protagonist, unlike in these movies where like random civilian has one encounter with the kaiju and then therefore is brought onto the task force team, Shiro is he's a construction guy, but for whatever reason he's like central to these discussions. I guess he can build things. I guess he can like do construction stuff, which I guess helps him in this case. But Keisuke in the last movie was just like, well, I guess he was a pilot too, but whatever. I'm trying to think, but there's no reason for like Eiichi's sister to be here. I guess except for like as guardian for Eiichi. But in that movie, you have like the police going like, we're not gonna deal with the kaiju stuff because the people who are experts can deal with that. We're gonna deal with the diamond stuff, and I think that it's fun. It's fun they do in that direction with it. But yeah, we get like the exposition that like Gyaos' laser are actually supersonic rays like made with like sound, and they have like weird technical bubbles. Oh, he has 2 necks, and that's why he can't turn his head. And it's more like it's dumb goofy science. But they basically assume all this volcanic activity is what ultimately awoken Gyaos from slumber. And they're like, well, we should go bomb Gyaos immediately, and they try and do that, and then it goes badly because Gyaos just like laser beams all the ships, all the planes, I mean, and then they call it off.
Yes, that was a pretty sick sequence.
Yeah. And also sick sequence, in my opinion, is immediately after this, Eiichi's like, damn, Gamera could save the day if he was here. Too bad he's like I bet he's like healing in the ocean. Then we get the cut shot of like zoom out as we see Eiichi like behind a fish tank, and then we get like the shot of Gamera in the water healing, and it's cool.
Oh, that was really good.
Yeah, I was like like a month or so ago, we watched in between Taro and Leo, we watched Johnny Mnemonic. And there's a scene early on in the movie where like Keanu Reeves' character Johnny Mnemonic looks into like a fish tank, and there's like a girl, and then he looks out from behind the fish tank. There's 2 girls, they're twins. And in sort of like a post commentary they did, and for the release of the black and white version, Reeves is like, oh yeah, that's the cinema. And so I kind of just like to use that. That clip has become a regular part of my vocabulary now. But because of Keanu saying that, for specifically that one fishbowl scene, seeing the fish tank in this movie, I was like, oh yeah, that's the cinema, baby. Especially because they're doing something with it. Let me just
What's up?
Oh, I was just gonna say, give you the Johnny and Mike. There's Reeves. It's the cinema. Yeah, there we go.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, very important for me specifically. But yeah, it's it's a cool scene. I like it. I think I read like these put a Gamera prop in the fish tank. And then after that he sort of like, you get the fading out from that to Eiichi being waking up at night. So they this is where they like clearly trying to show there's like a emotional / spiritual connection between Eiichi and Gamera, to reinforce that. And there's stuff weird sort of with the TV and the military move out. And yeah, I guess after this we get like, there's like 2 comic relief bozos whose name I don't know, but like they're sort of like the main construction guys after Shiro, and they're trying to like buy milk from the farm, so all the cattle disappeared because of Gyaos. And you sort of have like the villagers kind of talk about like Gyaos is being a curse in their village, and like whether there's sort of like this sort of like retribution towards them or who to who kind of thing. And then we kind of get like cut to the village meeting where we kind of get the reveal that like, the villagers are like putting on a show of protest. Well, they're doing actual protest, but the intent is for like to sell at a higher price. But they are worried that like suddenly there's a kaiju who's like making their land a lot less valuable, which is the problem. Especially because also their livestock has disappeared. So their livestock's gone, so they can't even make a livelihood on their land they can't even sell. But like they're still like, well, if we go to them to sell, then then that means they, on the other hand, we're gonna get short thrifted, and so that's the dilemma they're having. And so I hope that like they can't actually stop Gyaos, it seems. But yeah, and here we also see like the workers are also having it rough because like they can't build when Gyaos is terrorizing things, and so we kind of have the thing where like they're, Shiro has to see them off. Like he says, I'm the foreman, so I'm gonna stay on this job for as long as I can because like it's my job. But you all should go find work back in the city where there's actually like jobs to do so you can get paid. But we have the chuckle pucks staying behind with comic relief. Here we also get like the, again, important for Yuasa's vision scene where Aichi comes up and he's like, yeah, I've been taking notes and like taking pictures and looking out for Gyaos, and I think he's nocturnal. Like he never shows up during the daytime. And everyone's like, oh shit, damn, okay. And I think I guess a fun.
Yeah,
that's the thing
you
with
can
Yuasa
really
that
see
don't
the
like
perspective of like the child can notice things the adults are maybe overlooking.
Yeah. If I had to nitpick, I would say that like I think this is a thing that an adult scientist would notice. Personally. I think nocturnal activity is the thing that like the adults would, but I can also I guess in the logic of the weekend movie, Yuasa says this is not working on the logic of adults, this is working on the logic of like the fantasy, so let's not cinema sins it.
Right.
But working on like accepting the logic on the term is one of those things where like maybe like they're so like the adults are so heightened and like on alert because of Gyaos, they don't notice that like, oh, they're like too concerned about the unpredictability of when it'll come. They don't notice there's only specific times of days that it comes out. And I think it's it's a good way of like it's considered that like putting a lot of thought into like their very specific vision.
Right, for sure.
And you sort of have like everyone's kind of thinking like, okay, if he only comes out at night, we have a freer hand during the day, and also this means we got to go crazy with the lights. And so we have the scene where they first like set up a whole bunch of lights, and they also launch big flares. But they're like, okay, this is definitely going to work. These big bright flares are going to work, and they bomb it while the lights are going off. And what actually happens is Gyaos gets mad and goes and fucks up Nagoya. And do you remember the scene enough to describe it for the audience? Just I'm not the only one talking.
Unfortunately not. I think this bit has sort of faded through my head throughout the day.
Oh, how could you? I mean, it's basically it's a big set piece. Gyaos goes into Nagoya at night, fucks up some buildings, eats some people. I think it cuts
there's
a train in half.
There's a really cool shot from this one that I really liked. You should put it in the description. I'm probably gonna put it on my Blue Sky Media thread or whatever after this episode's recorded. But let me just, it's in my like own personal little server thing that's just me where I just put files. I really like this shot. I think it's really cool.
Oh yeah, it's cool. And I have to like, because I make YouTube versions of this, I have to think about which things I'm gonna use for thumbnails. And this is a contender. I might pick a different one though, just because like I want some more color variety. Because like the one I use for obviously the original movie is black and white because the movie is black and white, but the one I use for versus Baragon is also like set in like the frozen Osaka, so it's also kind of like gray tones. And so I might go for the one like in the later part of the scene where they're like it's sunrise happening and a fight word versus Gamera versus Gyaos, which we will proceed to. But yeah, there's some good cutscene stuff here of like people being like fuck, the prop going down and launching the people. Gyaos is a menace. Well, yeah, they fuck up the castle in Nagoya too. That's another like the important landmark being destroyed. And they also have the fun detail of like all the people are being evacuated into the stadium, which has all the lights blurring to keep them safe. And we also get a really good scene of like journalists trying to record it, and then the car gets cut in half. Apparently, I think I've read that split in half car was part of the promotional stuff, where like they show up on like promotional events leading up to the movie's release. It's a good gag where you have like the car cut in half and like one trails behind the other. It's a good comedy bit.
Yes, I really liked that bit. It's very fun doing these, because like it's always like, oh, I loved this bit. I wonder if Mel's gonna comment on it, and you often do. So which makes me glad.
I try to take as much notes as I can. I try and be very thorough, and because we're sort of like not doing summaries, more like guided through my notes. Basically, I'm like, well, I don't want to miss anything.
Right.
But yeah, Gamera comes up for round 2. And this is where the dogfight really happens. Like the movie's name.
Yes, the dogfight was really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, obviously, like harder to do. I don't know to the degree to which they have to do with puppets versus like suits, because it's all wire stuff. But lots of bumping around. It seems like in this battle, Gyaos lets out a green vapor, which kind of like puts out fires, which kind of like limits Gamera's ability to move because he's got his jets coming out of his shell. But then we get like the big, I guess the shot. We get the part where he crashes into the bay. And Gyaos is like going to attack, but then Gamera starts biting on its foot and chomping real good. This is what I meant by like maybe this is the one I'll use for the movie, but yeah,
yes, this one is also really good. I think either of these could work as YouTube thumbnails. I guess the only problem with mine is that it's kind of dark, so maybe in just a thumbnail form you can't really grasp what's happening.
Yeah, that's like it's a tough art for me because it's like this one theoretically looks good, but then I realize it's not doesn't look good on paper. Even though the movement's cool. But basically, what happens is remember Gyaos is inspired by a vampire, and so the sun's rising and he's his head starts going red and he's like, I don't like this. I gotta get out of here. And he eventually just like has to sacrifice his like little toesies to get away, and while Gamera like goes back into the bay. And then we get like some dock workers seeing like the severed toes in like the in the bay, and they call the cops, but then they come back. It's like, I think it shrunk. It was definitely bigger before. And the cops like, no way, what are you talking about? That's crazy. And so we kind of have like the scene where we're back at like scientist moded, where the science guys are like examining the toes, and like they put under some UV light, and they watch it shrink and go, oh, so it's weak to UV light. The UV disintegrates the flesh. And meanwhile, Gyaos is in his cave, and we see like the regrowing the toes back at the same time, which I think is some good effects here. Like I think like the regrowing was pretty impressive to me, as far as effects go.
I really liked the like prop they used for the toe as well. I thought it looked pretty cool.
Like the one on the table, the big one.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. And like it is like a little, you can tell a little bit like the shrinking is of its age, the effect, but also I think it like it does look pretty. It doesn't look cheap in a way. Like I feel like it's not like too far removed from what you see these days. But yeah, they kind of like they do the test and go, okay, so Gyaos does not like the sun because it'll kill it. And we also get like a really good moment where like Gyaos finishes like growing back its foot, but like it's going like rah, 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 and like it bumps its head against like a stalactite, and then like the stalactite like bumps its like newly grown toe, and it looks like it's just like For a second, I was like, that's cute. That's good. Did you notice that?
Yes.
It's good. Just a good personality on these kaiju. I feel like it's one of those things where like I have to wonder if they just put more attention to that stuff in a movie for kids and like actually creating those personal moments, because otherwise they might just like have the kaiju as like a more of just like a in a more adult movie. They don't really have like the same sort of like pathos, but for a bit of comedy, and it just was more of an animal.
Right.
I'm not actually sure how much that's true, but I feel like some degree it's like kids are like probably like going to latch on to that stuff more than like a adult in a more drama oriented movie. But I do appreciate it.
Right, I get you.
I think. Okay, no, we do have two operations in this movie actually when I think about it. So we're getting to the first one of these where they're like, do we just like drag out Gyaos and tie it up and wait for the sun come out? And for a reason, Eiichi's like, yeah, for a reason, I didn't get dizzy riding on Gamera. It was like, it was like I wasn't even spinning. And then the Dr. Aoki is like, clearly what we gotta do is like build a pedestal to spin Gyaos really fast so it gets dizzy. And I'm like, okay, sure. And then Eiichi's like, well, hey, this hotel has a rotating dish on it you can use. And so they get to work. I guess Shiro, being the foreman, calls in his buddies and is like, all right, we're gonna help the scientist guys build this, and the military guys build this. So they build like a shelter. They build an artificial fountain on this rotating platform, and they make artificial blood for this fountain to basically create like a Gyaos bird feeder, and it's wild. Because like, oh yeah, Gyaos likes eating people, so be attracted to human blood, so we made fake human blood.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty fun.
Yeah, it's like good, but also it's like, that's crazy. Also in this moment, all of it just like, Shiro, we decided to sell our land to you, and Shiro's like, guys, I'm busy. I can't do this right now. And then the village elf is like, guys, can you just nod? Can you just wait? Be patient? How dare you? And then we get the artificial blood. We're getting ready, and so they get some planes to spray it over the layer and draw Gyaos to the fountain. And Gyaos gets all sippy, like a little bird, sip sip. And then they start spinning it, right round, maybe, etc., etc. And Gyaos does get dizzy. They're like, oh man, it's working, until like the entire thing starts overheating and explodes. And it doesn't work anymore. And Gyaos just fucks up everything, and then uses the flames to douse the fires and fucks off. And then we have like a reporter guy says, I guess humanity's just fucked against the Gyaos because we can't do shit. How'd you like this operation though?
This one was it was good. I do think I think you can kind of tell that the director does not exactly have like an inclination towards the operation stuff, but it's pretty enjoyable.
Yeah. I like the effect of sort of like the fake blood and just like Gyaos sipping on it, the close-up shot. I think it's like, well done as well. But after this is where we get to the moral of the movie, which is where the villagers come and say, oh, they're rerouting the expressway and we want compensation for, you said they'd sell us for a lot of land, but now we're getting nothing. And Eiichi says, oh, you're greedy. And then Sumiko says, oh, you shouldn't blame Grandpa. He had your best intention in mind. first we get, okay, there's actually 1-2 punch of insane things in this movie. Where first Eiichi's like, oh yeah, I wish Gamera would show up to fight Gyaos. Gamera likes fire, so if you start a forest fire, that would attract Gamera, and then he would fight Gyaos and save the day. Which, that's the conclusion to have.
Yeah.
And then
It's
Grandpa.
It's kind of funny because I feel like these days you could not get away with making like a children's movie that has like we're gonna burn the forest to like summon them like.
And then 1-2 punch of this is that the grandpa goes, who's a village elder, and he like goes and like gives this plan to the scientist, and he's like, Gyaos was a punishment against our village for being greedy because we wanted more money to sell our land to build this highway, and we were wrong, and so now I don't care what it costs, even though this forest fire will cost billions of dollars of trees, which is clearly the only value we're thinking about, the trees and not the environment. And I'm just like, this is crazy. Like, this movie hates the environment and also the rural, because it's like, oh, how dare you want compensation for your land we're kicking you off to build this highway? How dare you? We're building,
and then we burn forest.
Yes, there's an elaborate operation to cut down all the trees and burn the forest. And it's like, this is crazy. You could not. This is like weird 60s like modernization at all costs for progress, quote unquote, mentality. Because it's solely like, it's just like, the opposite of any morals I have. Because like, what, you can destroy the environment and also kick poor villagers off their land for quote unquote progress.
Is this the most capitalist Gamera movie?
I guess so far, probably. It's like most.
Yes, I'm just like, is it gonna hold the crown? What's your bet?
We could go further, but I guess for now, I think this may be, I don't know. The stuff from this era always surprises me with like what morals they pull out of their ass. But like, I think if they're going to go in a more kid-friendly direction, then we might maybe tone down the social commentary. So this might actually be the most for a while, but we'll see. But I am just like, damn, this is like, I feel like this is kind of like, this is the kind of movie that Mao would be like, oh, these guys need a struggle session real bad. Like, cause holy shit. Like, just like the degree to which there's like no regard for like the land as a thing, and like how it's like as like a thing on its own, and also like his relationship with the people, other than just like, highway good, I guess, for its own, like the highway is presented. It seems like the highway is presented as ontologically good.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's definitely like modernization for modernization's sake, whatever modernization means, I guess. And like, again, this stuff, it does show up in like this era of like the Ultraman stuff too, where you both have like the village being flooded, commented on very neutrally in Ultra Q, and then also there's like an episode of Ultra 7 where there's a genre of like early Showa Ultraman episode where like they're transporting a missile, and like in one episode of Ultra 7 they're like, yeah, this is a missile that's gonna be used to blow up a mountain on like the west part of the country to like build a dam, and it's commented on, it's like, this is a good thing. And I'm like, this is crazy. what is the ideal? People in Tokyo are writing this is the thing. Tokyo and Kyoto, not people in those villages. It's it's definitely a worldview to have and to put in your movie that comes from a certain class and geographic position. And yeah, so basically, the next operation is environmental destruction, as Catherine has said.
Yes,
And
yes, they fucking set the forest on fire.
yeah, we have a montage of them cutting down all the trees, and they set it all on fire. I was losing my mind.
I was
And then
too.
yeah,
I was just like, what a bad shit resolution for this movie.
yeah. And like, to be clear, I do enjoy this movie, but also I am like, I don't agree with this movie ideologically.
No, same.
But yeah, the fire draws Gamera as planned, and you have Gyaos trying to put it out with his green paper. We get another fight. Gamera grabbing chunks off Gyaos' wings. The vapor kind of gluing Gamera in the shell, and we get like another fun sequence where Gyaos like tries to pick up and drop the shell a few times, sometimes and like barely missing the shelter all the people are in. There's another one where I'm also like, am I going to use, if it wasn't for the fact that it is like dark as shit, should I use this for the thumbnail? Because like, it's like very evocative shot of just like Gyaos picking up the shell. But I also like, I don't
I really like this one. Maybe this is the pick.
Yeah, like my only like trepidation is like literally all of the thumbnails are gonna end up like this color and shade. So I'm like, I'll think about it. I am really torn between like the sunset one and this one, but this one looks really good. Is the thing. I think this one looks good because you get a real good silhouette of, well, not silhouette, but you get a really good like. Gyaos is really defined here, so I might actually end up going with this one. I'll just have to pick a colorful one in the next movie.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm not gonna use this one, but I really like in this fight the shot of like after all this, you get you get a bunch of Gyaos gets a few headshots on Gamera, and then you see Gamera reaching over to grab a very human-like thing to do, reaching over while he's struggling to grab a rock, and then shoving it into Gyaos' mouth. So he can't do the beam thing. And with that is able to tackle Gyaos into the river, which gets this really cool shot. I love this. Like, it looks really cool. I love special effects. Just Gyaos in like face down the water as Gamera comes in and like bite his neck.
Yes.
It's really brutal, and then
should we make this? Should we make this one the thumbnail?
Maybe there's a lot of good shots in this movie. I think I just worry this one's maybe a little too. I gotta think about it. I have a lot of things to.
Yeah.
This problem is I can only pick one.
Yeah, this movie is pretty well filmed.
Yeah, despite the lower budget, they're cooking. Where it counts. Except for the morals, but we already had that discussion. But yeah, sun comes out and Gyaos starts like dying, and then Gamera drops off his corpse, drags his corpse into Mount Fuji, and everyone is just like, the day is saved, we're gonna sell our land. Sherry, when can you start building the road? And he's like, I'll get to work as soon as I can. And Ichi waves goodbye to Gamera. And that's how the movie ends. And then we get a clip show of the
Thanks for destroying the environment, Gamera.
And we get the montage of the first. Well, this movie then too. But we get, like these first three movies, we get a montage of them while the song is at the beginning of this podcast plays. And that was the third Gamera movie. Gamera vs. Gyaos.
Yeah.
So what did you think of it?
Okay, so I think this is probably, a lot closer to what I expected the last movie to be. I think out of the three we've seen, because you really sold me on Gamera 2.
Yeah.
While we were recording for it. Gamera
Yeah.
versus Baragon. You know, I think
My power.
This is my least favorite of the three, but I still think it's a reasonably it's a reasonably entertaining watch. I had a good
Yeah.
time watching it. I don't know if I'd come back to this one.
Yeah.
I don't think so, honestly. But
So
I'm curious to see how they iterate on and develop the formula from here. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I obviously haven't seen all. I'm going through this movie the first time, basically, but also I know some things about the future, so I'm gonna keep them quiet because I want to see your reactions to them when you're in the dark. Especially because this movie is significant. Just for clarification, is your favorite's still the first movie, or did you like the second one?
No. I think you sold me on Gamera versus Baragon. I think if Gamera versus Baragon had 10 more minutes of Gamera in it, it would be like a clear, satin match.
I do think it's funny that you went in that podcast being like, I don't know if I like this movie, and now you're like, oh, actually, it might be my favorite because of me.
Yes, I like the first two. I think maybe about the same for different reasons.
Yeah, I think Baragon's still my favorite.
Are we watching the Netflix series, or are we just doing the movies?
We can think about it. I've been thinking about this in my head, because my initial plan was one movie per month for the 12 months of the year. But there's no reason after we hit 2026 we can't just also watch that one,
Yes, I assume in terms of total runtime it is only so much longer than a movie.
Yeah, it's 6 episodes, so it's not the longest thing in the world, but it's
yeah.
But we'll see how it goes. It's not like a big time. It's not like a big time commitment. Just
Yeah.
We're just still early on in this.
Yeah, I was just looking down the list of Gamera stuff, and I'm like, oh, a series, are we doing that?
Yeah, I purposely included it on the list just in case. So we might do that. I don't see any reason not to. There's definitely side bonus stuff we could do. But I also don't know time wise. But I keep my ear out. Things we could look at.
Right.
I'm just also not sure logistically how we necessarily do that, some of that stuff, but we can see. Some of that stuff's more relevant to later movies, the 90s stuff anyway, so but yeah, I think Baragon's still my favorite so far. It just hits a bunch of the stuff that I like, minus the racism. And I'm trying to decide if I like this or the first movie more, and I think I do like this one more than the first movie. I think it just hits my sensibilities more. I guess I maybe part of it's and maybe having the versus for stuff is more appealing to me. Obviously the first movie is good, but this one I just I think there's a bit more ambition to it with Gyaos. They're really improving on the special effects even with the more limited budget. Yeah, I think they were cooking with this one, morals aside. I think there's also them finding I'm impressed with them finding a happy medium between there's the action, there's still some elements of the human drama is not the wayside, but they also still have they brought back the child protagonist into the fore in a way that feels it works, and it does a lot to build Gamera as a character, basically, where he wasn't necessarily one before, when he was more a device, especially in the last movie where Gamera was
right.
That's probably one of the weaker aspects of the last movie, where Gamera is
yes,
it's Gamera versus Baragon.
It's a good movie. Yeah,
it's a good movie
it's
with
a
that
good
like
movie, but
that features
it's
Gamera
not
and
a
doesn't
good
star Gamera.
Gamera movie.
Yeah, like
Yes.
featuring Gamera, not starring Gamera, and like Gamera feels more like a Deus Ex Machina in that movie, whereas in this one he's like a character. I think that's that's like them finding the secret sauce. So I think based on that, I do like it second so far of the ones to watch. I guess we'll see how we feel going forward. Because it is like this is probably like a more of a better Gamera movie compared to Baragon. And also, like I said, like all indications seem to go this is the first Gamera movie of the rest of the Gamera series. So it is like it'll cast a wide shadow over the future of the franchise.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see in what ways it is, especially because we're gonna, if you notice the spreadsheet, there's gonna be like a string of movies for a while, and then a gap, and then another gap.
Right.
And it'll be interesting seeing how that goes. And yeah, I guess, like, do you have any other thoughts on the movie? I think because obviously we're like going step by step, so we're going pretty thorough in discussion.
Yeah, I'm gonna say not the best, but it's fun enough.
Yeah, I think that's like that's the important thing. Just like have a good time.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm looking forward to, with Brad, like getting further in our Godzilla movie, Toho movie watch, because like the last one we watched was Dogora, which is in 64, so like 2 years before Gamera, or 1 year before Gamera, and so like I'm curious to see more of the movies that are like coming out alongside Gamera and comparing them, just like what's going on besides Gamera. And I mean, obviously, like I've seen Ultraman and Ultra 7 for the podcast, so I have some sense on the TV at least, but just on the rival movie side, how those look, what sort of like themes and stuff going on, etc.
Yeah, was that your phone, by the way? Just figured to check it wasn't mine.
Oh, you heard that. That's embarrassing.
I'm sorry, my ringtone sounds kind of like that, so I just had to make sure.
No, that was just a vibration going off. It's like, damn, I just got a bunch of notifications for no reason. It's fine. We'll keep that in. Or we'll go with the outtakes. We'll see. Yeah. Yeah, this one, obviously, because this one is like, I'm curious to see how they iterate on this one. And there's obviously, there's things I know where I'm like,
I'm gonna be curious to like see how my rankings of these movies change as I go through them.
Yeah, because how things are contextualized with the future is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
Oh. All right then. So if I am remembering correctly, because it's been a bit since we last recorded. Just gonna remind myself. All right. Okay. I guess we can do the Kaiju tier rankings now, if you wish.
Yeah.
So hopefully next time I'll actually have like
a do yours first.
Well, we're doing kind of a shared one, right? So.
Right. Okay. Gamera still has to go in ass.
You're gonna be Gamera's strongest soldier.
We're doing the fucking Gamera podcast.
Yeah, I respect it. I respect it. I just think it's amusing. Gamera S tier. Will he ever be dethroned? It seems unlikely, but we'll see. Of course, tier list so people can be in the same tier. But for now, Baragon, how are you feeling? Any reconsiderations?
High A, low S.
We'll keep strict for now. We won't go like fancy, so we'll just put an A tier for now.
Sure.
How about Gyaos?
Like, C?
Can I negotiate that to a B?
Sure,
I'm not sure if I'm not. I feel like I might need some time to think about if he deserves A. Like I know obviously he's a big deal in like the franchise, but like at least in this one he you know he's like got some sauce, but also he is like a little scrawny. So I can't I can I can respect you maybe not being as hot on him. But C's a little too low for me, so I think B's a good comfortable one for now.
Sure.
Okay. Hopefully the next kaiju won't just be C tier.
I hope so too. I don't even know what the next one is.
Next kaiju or just the next movie?
Oh, both. I guess these are kind of the same thing.
Yeah, next one is Gamera versus Virus. I'm gonna check first of all. Check any. Okay, we still not getting any Gamera emails, unfortunately. Oh well. But yeah, I guess for now we'll lock it in. Hopefully next time we won't continue the descending order of kaiju. And the next movie is Gamera versus Virus, which we'll figure out when to record later. I might put out this movie. I didn't know I was filming this actually. Put out this podcast. I might put out this podcast within the next week or two, just within this month, because this was supposed to be the March pod anyway. So I may as well just like do that, and then we'll be technically caught up, and we can be back on schedule for like the April month pod is gonna be in April, etc., etc., etc.
Right.
I might do that on. I might put this out on the 20th/21st because I saw like a whole bunch of the movies of the 70s, 60s came out on the 20th/21st for some reason. But also I just put it out on like a later date just to like spread it out a bit more because like as of recording, the second pod is coming out in 2 days.
Oh.
To celebrate this movie that we're talking about today's anniversary. So. The one anniversary I don't want to miss is the actual franchise's first movie one on November 27th. But, that's like... That should be easy enough to make sure happens.
Right. When would that be?
The anniversary of Gamera overall is November 27th. So, that would be the penultimate movie. The last of the 90s movies.
Oh.
Which and I hear people really like those 90s movies, so hopefully I'll be big pod for a big day. But that's like I don't know, 7 months from now.
I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see how the times change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna be in this like stretch of movies for a while because I made a bunch of movies in the 60s into the early 70s, and then these stop for basically all the 70s and make one movie in 1980. Because I remember you saying, wait, there's only like, when I told you like how the 90s movies are like basically the last movies we see, like you were like surprised by how few their movies were like after a certain date. But yeah, the bulk of the movies are just here in the 60s and 70s. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting journey.
Yeah.
And if you would like other people to join you on other journeys, could you tell them where to find you? Because we're in plug mode now, because I may as well segue to the end of the podcast.
Yeah, well, Kimi Catherine, dot blue sky, dot social. Um, like these days I usually just post about Rika Afromusica. Um,
I feel crazy because I'm like the one
other,
person I know who is not Yuka Pilt.
I,
This is my confession. This is
you
my
might just
confession.
not be, yeah. Yeah, maybe you're just
What were you
not
gonna say?
as much of a yearner at heart. I was gonna say maybe you're not, just not as much of a yearner at heart.
I have it in me. I just like for whatever reason for Yuka,
Oh.
I didn't click. Like this most recent episode that was like the Wika backstory episode. I was just like, yeah, okay. Like everyone else is like really strong polarized opinions one way or the other, and we all like, yeah, okay. I watched it. I was very neutral on this one episode for some reason compared to every other episode of the show. I'm like, I feel weird. This is a weird feeling I'm having. This is my confessional.
Right.
Uh,
No, it's okay. I accept your.
however, I do love this
self.
for Eureka fans. Probably, some of them are really mad about this week's episode. I'm happy for the ones who like it though. I think the ones who are like mad about it are probably cowards.
Right. Remind me, have you read Umi Nako?
I still need to. I read Higurashi like 4 years ago.
I don't want to say anything. I won't say anything.
I'll see how I feel after the show ends because I'd like to have a strong opinion of everyone, and I'd feel bad if I was just like, as this one singular character I just did not click with for some reason. Sorry to be saying this about your faith.
No.
You can say nice things about her in to balance it out.
Yeah. Otherwise, I've mismatchwings.itch.io. That's my game.
Play Catherine's game.
Yeah, I'll make more as soon as I'm a little more settled down. But for now, there's one.
Yeah, you got ideas cooking?
I do have many. It's kind of a question of, do I do the big one? Do I start do I level up with a few smaller ones first?
Yeah, as someone who still has to make things but has had ideas in her head for like a decade, I'm like, I need to make something. And like I'm always like, I feel like it's so easy for me to turn a small idea into a big one. I just like, well, I'm not gonna make anything that way. But you're out here making stuff, and that's cool. I guess that's your plugs, right?
Yeah, that's all my plugs.
Yeah, and so for me,
I guess I'm a frequent guest on Fate Moon Archive, one of the best podcasts of all time. So y'all should listen to that, even the episodes that don't have me on it.
Yeah, I have not listened to as much of their pod just because I'm like, this Type Moon stuff is all stuff that I probably want to get to at some point on my own. I just haven't yet. But I have been making sure to listen to their coverage of Avamichika and enjoying that. So if you for whatever reason have not been listening to their podcast and want like commentary on basically every episode of the show, you can go do that. Support Cat's friends on the Outdoor Napping Network. As for me, you can support this podcast feed's main pod, Ultra Q, by going to Ultra Q at Ultra_Q on Twitter or at UltraQ with no underscore on Blue Sky. If you have an email, you can send it at ultrapod@gmail.com. Put Gamera on the subject line if you have Gamera-related questions. Get those April movie questions cooking as soon as you can. Just make sure Gamera on the subject line so I know which pod to episode it's on. You can follow me on Twitter and or Blue Sky at Dear Crowns. Yeah, on the LGQ side, we're watching Leo. I'm sure by the time you've listened to this, we would have put out the Ultraman Arc movie Skipping the Queue episode just because someone subbed it, so we're watching it a lot closer to when the movie actually came out and not like 10 months later like we had to do with the Blazer movie. That was an experience and made our final thoughts on that series really weird. But yeah. Yeah, we're still early on Leo, so we'll be there for a while, but also don't know when this is coming out relative to the next of these gamer pods, but probably around the same ballpark, maybe a bit before, maybe a bit after. We also be having our first detour query on Red and I reading Golden Kamuy, the first 6 volumes. So look forward to that coverage as well.
Oh, have fun.
Yeah, because we have like our side pod where we talk about things that aren't Ultraman. And so we decided to do Golden Kamuy because it's the manga about Hokkaido and the Ainu, and we talk a lot about Japanese colonization of Okinawa in Ultraman for some reason, because that's weirdly relevant at times. So it's a companion piece.
Right. That's like the plot of the thing, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm still early on. Like, I read 2 chapters, so I have to see. But I've heard that, like, yeah.
Right.
Ainu culture and, like, themes and, like, the settler colonialism are, like, is pretty central. And, like, it seems like the Ainu are... They like the representation of their culture and their history in the manga. So you'll be curious. It'll be nice to, like, see that and do commentary on it. I'm excited. I'm excited because it's a movie I wanted to see for a while, and it'd be interesting doing, like, deep reads of it with that in the context of, like, the stuff we've been talking about with, like, imperialism as it relates to Japan and stuff on Ultraman Pod. So yeah, look forward to that. I hope you join us for that as well, and I hope you'll also join us next month for the 4th Gamera movie, Gamera versus Virus. And would you like to give the signature?
I thought you said Beerus, like the Dragon Ball character.
Honestly, the katakana might not be that far off, to be honest. You want? Let's look this up now. Actually, fuck it. We're at the end of the podcast.
Yeah, let's.
Making work for myself when I edit later. Okay. Do you know what? It's different than expected. It's actually fairly different. This is for Dragon Ball character. And this is for the Kaiju. So it's actually not... It seems like it's not Virus. It seems like it's Virus. Okay. So, good to know. I'll remember that for next time. Join us next time for Gamera versus Virus, apparently. Anyway. Yeah, would you like to give the sign-off you may not remember from before?
So, I'll see you as we sink down into Atlantis?
It's something like that.
Yeah, please, double check it before we start next time, so I can,
Excuse me, it's your sign off. You should check.
Yes, okay, I'll check before we do it next time, so I can fucking remember it.
It's fine. As for me, I'll see you in Shell.
Sorry about that. I'm back.
Welcome
I
back.
realized I forgot to mute my mic on Audacity, so should I end this file and make a new one, or...
What does that mean for me?
Oh, well, more like any conversation I had while I was muted is still on the mic, I think. So, what I could do is I can stop
Wait,
this
did
file.
we lose all that audio?
I'll I'll clear this file, like, I'll stop and save it, I'll trim the last, like, 5 minutes off, and then I'll send it
No,
to
no,
you.
I'll take care of that. Yeah, dang, it's fine.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, it's just like I kept my mic rolling just in case. In silence.
Okay.
I'm sure the
okay,
silence will be like.
Yeah,
You just have
okay,
to take your
perfect.
time, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I don't want to just ramble about it too much.
No,
So
that's
on
fine.
that-
Shall we shall we move on to the main event?
Yeah, let's. I was trying to think. Do I make a new segue or do I like use my old one? In the first episode.
No, just go for it.
Freezing up. Oh no! How embarrassing!
It's fine. You can cut it out in the edit.
I'll probably put this in the outtakes because I was doing that. Anyway, let's just move on to the main event.